by lot to reside in the city. 7. 4. 11. 1. 2 efforts are made to improve the spiritual condition of the Jews. Wealthy Jews agree to make restoration to their poor brothers, whom they have wrongly charged interest on loans. 5. 1-13 At a public assembly, Ezra reads the law and certain Levites share in explaining it. The people weep but are encouraged to rejoice because the day is holy. They rejoice, too, because they understand. Text to acute miritra longo. Neighbor 489 determined just how long after 443 BCE Nehemiah completed the book bearing his name. Agreement with other Bible books. The book of Nehemiah exalts Jehovah God. It reveals him to be the creator. Ne 9. 6. Compare GE 1. 1. PS 146. 6. Re 4. 11. A God who answers the sincere prayers of his servants. Ne 1. 11. 2. 8. 4. 4, 5, 15, 16. 6. 16. Compare PS 86. 6, 7, and the defender of his people. Ne 4. 14, 20. Compare X 14. 14, 25. He is a God of acts of forgiveness, gracious and merciful, slow to anger and abundant in loving kindness. Ne 9. 17. Compare New 14. 18. The God of the heavens, the God great and fear-inspiring, keeping the covenant and loving kindness toward those loving him and keeping his commandments. Ne 1. 5. Compare to 7. 9, 10, 21. Numerous allusions to the law are found in the book of Nehemiah. These involve the calamities to result from disobedience and the blessings to come from repentance. 26. 33. To 30. 4. Ne 1. 7-9, loans. 25. 35-38. To 15. 7-11. Ne 5. 2-11, marriage alliances with foreigners. 7. 3. Ne 10. 30, Sabbaths, the release from debt. 6-20. 8. 25. 4. 15. 1, 2. Ne 10. 31, the altar fire. 6. 13. Ne 10. 34, the festival of booths. 31. 10-13. Ne 8. 14-18, and the entry of Moabites and Ammonites into the congregation of Israel. 23. 3-6. Ne 13. 1-3, as well as tithes, first fruits, and contributions. X 30. 16. New 18. 12-30. Ne 10. 32-39. There is also historical information in this book that is found elsewhere in the Hebrew Scriptures. Ne 9. 7-35. 13. 26. Compare Ne 13. 17, 18 with J 17. 21-27. And contemporary history in the account illustrates other biblical passages. Psalms 123 and 129 find a historical parallel in what was experienced by Nehemiah and the other Jews in connection with their rebuilding of the wall of Jerusalem. Ne 4. 1-5, 9. 6. 1-14 Jehovah's causing Artaxerxes to do his will by granting Nehemiah's request to rebuild the wall of Jerusalem historically illustrates Proverbs 21. 1. A king's heart is as streams of water in the hand of Jehovah. Everywhere that he delights to, he turns it. Ne 2. 4-8. Both the book of Ezra 2. 1-67 and the book of Nehemiah 7. 6-69 list the number of exiles from various families or houses who returned from Babylonian exile with Zerubbabel. The accounts harmonize in giving 42,360 as the total number of Israelites who returned, apart from slaves and singers. As 2. 64. Ne 7. 66 However, there are differences in the numbers given for each family or house, and the individual figures in both listings yield a total of far less than 42,360. Many scholars would attribute these variations to scribal errors. While this aspect cannot be completely ignored, there are other possible explanations for the differences. It may be that Ezra and Nehemiah base their listings on different sources. For example, Ezra could have used a document listing those who enrolled to return to their homeland, whereas Nehemiah might have copied from a record listing those who actually did return. Since there were priests who were unable to establish their genealogy as to 61-63. NE 7. 63-65, it is not unreasonable to conclude that many of the other Israelites face the same problem. Consequently, the 42,360 could be the combined total of the number from each family plus many others who were unable to establish their ancestry. Later, however, some may have been able to establish their correct genealogy. This could explain how a fluctuation in numbers might still give the same total. Nehiloth Nehi Middle.Loth. A transliteration of Niki Middle.Loth, a Hebrew term of uncertain derivation and meaning, occurring only in the superscription of Psalm 5. Nehiloth appears to be a musical expression, and many believe that it refers to a wind instrument, linking it with a Hebrew root related to chal middle.lil flute. However, the phrase for Nehiloth may designate a melody. The Greek Septuagint and the O Textoi Acute Muritra Longo neighbor 490 other associated Hebrew terms that are in some contexts rendered neighbor vary slightly in connotation and give us a broader view of the relationships expressed in the Hebrew scriptures. Raya means fellow, companion, friend and can apply to closeness of relationship, but it generally means one's fellow man or fellow countryman, whether he is a close associate, lives nearby or not. In most of its uses in the scriptures it applies to a fellow member of the Commonwealth of Israel or to one residing in Israel. X 20. 16. 22. 11. De 4. 42. PR 11. 9. A middle.myth means fellow or associate and is used often in the sense of one with whom a person has some dealings. The 6. 2. 19. 15, 17. 25. 14, 15. Middle.rove, meaning near, at hand, related to, has reference to place, time, or persons. It can imply more intimate relationship than neighbor and is at times rendered intimate or close acquaintance. X 32. 27. Jos 9. 16. PS 15. 3. 38. 11. No one English word can express fully all these shades of meaning. Similarly, in the Greek scriptures there are 3 words with slightly different flavor that are usually translated neighbor. Gaitun, one living in the same land. Lu 14. 12. Jo 9. 8. Pe middle.ro middle.kos, an adjective meaning dwelling around, used as a noun plural at Luke 1. 58. Bul middle.sion, meaning near, used with the article hoda, literally, the one near. Row 13. 10. F4. 25 of these Greek words, Vine's Expository Dictionary of Old and New Testament Words says. These words have a wider range of meaning than that of the Eng. Word neighbor. There were no farmhouses scattered over the agricultural areas of Palestine. The populations, gathered in villages, went to and fro to their toil. Hence domestic life was touched at every point by a wide circle of neighborhood. The terms for neighbor were therefore of a very comprehensive scope. This may be seen from the chief characteristics of the privileges and duties of neighborhood as set forth in Scripture, or its helpfulness, for example. Luke 10. 36. Beats intimacy, for example Luke 15. 6, 9. Heb. 8. 11. See its sincerity and sanctity, for example. Rom. 13. 10. 15. 2. F. 4. 25. Jas. 4. 12. 1981, Volume 3, p. 107. Bad neighbors. However, some living nearby might be evil neighbors, as were the neighbor nations around Israel. When Jerusalem's temple was destroyed by Babylonian hands in 607 BCE, these nations, such as Edom, rejoiced, even surrendering fugitive Jews to their enemies. PS 137. 7. Ob 8-14. Mic 4. 11. The psalmist was moved to write, "We have become a reproach to our neighbors, a plural form of Shamiddle-Dotkin, a derision and a jeering to those round about us." He prayed, "Repay to our neighbors," a plural form of shaken 7 times into their bosom their reproach with which they have reproached you. Because Jehovah dwelt among Israel, he spoke of the nations that opposed his people as all my bad neighbors, who were touching the hereditary possession that I caused my people, even Israel, to possess. PS 79. 4, 12. J 12. 14. Compare PS 68. 16. Love towards neighbor commanded. The Bible, throughout, instructs one to exercise love, kindness, generosity, and helpfulness toward one's neighbor, whether he be merely a dweller nearby, an associate, a companion, an intimate acquaintance, or a friend. The law commanded, with justice you should judge your associate. Form of a middle. Myth. You must not hate your brother in your heart. You should by all means reprove your associate, that you may not bear sin along with him. And you must love your fellow. Form of Raya as yourself. 19. 15-18. In the Greek Septuagint the word Raya is here translated by the Greek expression Hopel middle. Sion. David commends the man who is not slandered with his tongue. To his companion. Form of Raya he has done nothing bad, and no reproach has he taken up against his intimate acquaintance. Form of Karovo text to acute miritra longo. Nephilim 491. Though one is living at a distance, or is not a relative or an associate, the real neighbor is the one who will exercise the love and kindness to another that the scriptures command. Lu 10. 29-37. In the Commonwealth of Israel. At Hebrews 8. 11. A form of the Greek word po-middle-letes, citizen, appears in most Greek texts. Some late manuscripts read po-middle-sion. Paul here quotes from the restoration prophecy of Jeremiah 31. 34, spoken to those in the Commonwealth of Israel. And they will no more teach each one his companion. Form of Rea and each one his brother, saying, Know Jehovah. For they will all of them know me, from the least one of them even to the greatest one of them, is the utterance of Jehovah. Paul applies it to the spiritual holy nation, the Israel of God, saying, And they will by no means teach each one his fellow citizen and each one his brother. Counsel from Proverbs. While a person is to help his neighbor and to love him, yet he must exercise caution not to make attempts to become the most intimate associate of his neighbor or fellowman, to avoid imposing or presuming upon him. The proverb couches the thought in these terms. Make your foot rare at the house of your fellowman. Form of Rea, that he may not have his sufficiency of you and certainly hate you. PR 25. 17. However, faith and trust in a companion, and the advisability of calling on such a person in time of need are counseled in the Proverbs. Do not leave your own companion or the companion of your father, and do not enter the house of your own brother on the day of your disaster. Better is a neighbor Shamiddle-kin that is near than a brother that is far away. PR 27. 10. Here the writer seems to be saying that a close family friend is one to be valued and should be looked to for help rather than even so close a relative as a brother, if that brother is far away, because he may not be as ready, or at least not in as favorable a position, to render help as the family companion. Nekoda ne middle.ko dar speckled. 1. The forefather of a group of Nethinim who returned from Babylonian exile in 537 BCE is 2. 1, 43, 48. Ne 7. 46, 50. 2. The forefather of a group unable to tell the house of their fathers and their origin. As 2. 59, 60. Ne 7. 61, 62. Since the names of Delaiah and Tobiah associated with Nekoda in these verses do not occur elsewhere in a list of returning exiles, it is assumed that this nakhoda is a person different from number 1. Namu or Namu middle.l. 1. First listed of Simeon's 5 sons and family head of the Namulites. New 26. 12-14. 1ch4. 24 in the list of those who came into Egypt with Jacob, he is called Jemuel. Ge 46. 8, 10. x6. 15. 2. Son of Eliab and great-grandson of Reuben. His brothers were the rebels Din and Abiram, whom the earth swallowed up. New 26. 5, 8, 9. 11. 6. Namulites Namu middle.ites of belonging to Namuel. A family of Simeon descended from Namuel. New 26. 12. Nepheg and Epheg. 1. Son of Shah and brother of Korah and Zitri. Of the tribe of Levi, he was a cousin of Moses and Aaron. x6. 16, 18, 20, 21. 2. One of King David's sons born at Jerusalem. 2 5. 13-15. 1ch3. 5, 7. 14. 3-6. Nephilim Nephi middle.lim fellas. Those who cause others to fall down. This is a transliteration of the Hebrew word Nephi middle.lim, plural in its 3 occurrences in the Bible. Ge 6. 4. New 13. 33 twice. It evidently stems from the causative form of the Hebrew verb na middle.full fall as found, for example, in 2 Kings 3. 19. 19. 7. The Bible account describing Jehovah's displeasure with men in the days of Noah before the flood relates that the sons of the true God took for themselves wives from among the attractive daughters of man. It then mentions the presence of Nephilim, saying, the Nephilim proved to be in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of the true God continued to have relations with the daughters of men, and o textoi acute miritra longo. Nephilim 492 roamed the earth until they were destroyed by the flood. Still another group, taking into consideration not only the meaning of the name Nephilim, but also the context of verse 4, conclude that the Nephilim were not themselves angels, but were the hybrid offspring resulting from materialized angels having intercourse with the daughters of man. Same as gib middle.bo middle.rim. Certain Bible translations adjust the location of the phrase and also after that, placing it near the beginning of verse 4, thus identifying the Nephilim with the mighty ones, the gib middle.bo middle.rim, mentioned in the latter part of the verse. For example, in those days, as well as afterward, there were giants Heb. Han middle.Nephilim on the earth, who were born to the sons of the gods whenever they had intercourse with the daughters of man. These were the heroes Heb. Hag middle.gib middle.bo middle.rim who were men of note in days of old. Ge 6. 4, at. See also Mo, Nev, and Tef. The Greek Septuagint also suggests that both the Nephilim and mighty ones are identical by using the same word gigan middle.tes giants to translate both expressions. Reviewing the account, we see that verses 1-3 tell of the sons of the true God taking wives, and of Jehovah's statement that he was going to end his patience with men after 120 years. Verse 4 then speaks of the Nephilim proving to be in the earth in those days, evidently the days when Jehovah made the statement. Then it shows that this situation continued after that, when the sons of the true God continued to have relations with the daughters of men, and describes in more detail the results of the union of the sons of the true God with women. Who were the sons of God that fathered the Nephilim? Who were the sons of the true God that were involved? Were they men who were worshippers of Jehovah as distinguished from the general run of wicked mankind, as some claim? Evidently not. The Bible implies that their marriage to the daughters of men resulted in whipping up the badness in the earth. Noah and his 3 sons, along with their wives, were the only ones in God's favor and were the only ones preserved through the deluge. Ge 6. 9. 8. 15, 16. 1p3. 20. Hence, if these sons of the true God were merely men, the question arises, why were their offspring men of fame more than those of the wicked, or of faithful Noah? Also, the question might be asked, why mention their marriage to the daughters of men as something special? Marriage and childbearing had been taking place for more than 1,500 years. The sons of God mentioned at Genesis 6:2, therefore, must have been angels, spirit sons of God. This expression is applied to angels at Job 1:6. 7. This view is supported by Peter, who speaks of the spirits in prison, who had once been disobedient when the patience of God was waiting in Noah's days. 1 Peter 3:19-20. Also Jude writes of the angels that did not keep their original position but forsook their own proper dwelling place. Jude 6. Angels had the power to materialize in human form, and some angels did so to bring messages from God. G 18. 1, 2, 8, 20-22. 19. 1-11. Jos 5. 13-15. But heaven is the proper abode of spirit persons, and the angels there have positions of service under Jehovah. Dar 7. 9, 10. To leave this abode to dwell on earth and to forsake their assigned service to her fleshly relations would be rebellion against God's laws, and perversion. The Bible states that the disobedient angels are now spirits in prison, having been thrown into a Tartarus and reserved with eternal bonds under dense darkness for the judgment of the great day. This seems to indicate that they are greatly restricted, unable again to materialize o textui acute miritra longo. Nero 493. A report intended to terrorize the 10 spies who brought back to the Israelites in the wilderness a false report on the land of Canaan declared, all the people whom we saw in the midst of it are men of extraordinary size. And there we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Anak, who are from the Nephilim. So that we became in our own eyes like grasshoppers, and the same way we became in their eyes. No doubt there were some large men in Canaan, as other scriptures show, but never except in this bad report, which was carefully couched in language designed to strike terror and cause panic among the Israelites, are they called Nephilim. New 13. 31-33. 14. 36, 37. Nephtoanath middle dot to R. The name associated with a spring on the boundary between Judah and Benjamin. Jos 15. 1, 9. 18. 11, 15. This spring is usually identified with the one at Lifta Nephtoah, to the east of Kiriath Jearim and about 4 kilometers 2.5 MWNW of the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. Although this identification would agree with Joshua 15. 9, Joshua 18. 15, 16 appears to place the spring of the waters of Nephtoah W of Kiriath Jearim. Bible translators have variously handled this seeming discrepancy. Following the reading of the Greek Septuagint, the Jerusalem Bible replaces westward with towards Gasson. In the Revised Standard Version the text has been changed in harmony with Joshua 15. 9 and reads to Ephron instead of westward. Ronald A. Knox translates the Hebrew word Yammah westward according to its literal meaning as seaward and, in a footnote, explains. This ought to mean westwards, towards the Mediterranean, but it seems quite clear that at this point the boundary of Benjamin turned eastwards. And the sea is presumably the Dead Sea, its eastward limit. Nefushisimeni middle.fushi middle.sim, Nefusimeni middle.fusim. A family head of Nethinim, some of whose descendants returned from the Babylonian exile with Zerubbabel, 537 BCE and E7. 6, 7, 46, 52. As 2. 43, 50. Possibly he was of Ishmaelite ancestry through the Naphish tribe. GE 25. 13-15. 1ch1. 29-31. 5. 19. Nalamp. A Benjamite, son of Abiel Jael, father of Abner and Kish, and grandfather of King Saul. 1 14. 50, 51. 1ch8. 33. 9. 39. Seabiel number 1. Neroius and Neroius. A brother who, with his sister, was included in Paul's greetings to the Roman congregation. Row 16. 15. The name is also found on Roman inscriptions listing some of the emperor's household, as well as in legend. Nergal-Negalans. A Babylonian deity especially worshipped at Kuthar, a city that history says was dedicated to Nergal. the people of Cuthkutha, whom the king of Assyria settled in the territory of Samaria, continued worshipping this deity. 2 Kai 17. 24, 30, 33 Some scholars suggest that Nergal was originally associated with fire and the heat of the sun, and that later he came to be regarded as a god of war and hunting as well as a bringer of pestilence. The appellatives applied to Nergal in religious texts indicate that he was basically viewed as a destroyer. He is called the Raging King, the Violent One, and the One Who Burns. Nergal also came to be regarded as the god of the underworld and the consort of Ereshkigal. The human-headed and winged lion is thought to have been the emblem of Nergal. Nergal-Sharezer the Rabmag, one of King Nebuchadnezzar's princes, was evidently named after this god. J 39. 3, 13. Nergal-Shareznagalan's Shai Middle. Isa from Akkadion, meaning may Nergal protect the king. 1. A Babylonian prince of Nebuchadnezzar's time. J 39. 3. 2. Another important prince in Nebuchadnezzar's forces led the overthrow of Jerusalem, distinguished from number 1 by the added title Rabmag. It was this Rabmag who assisted in the release of Jeremiah. J 39. 3, 13, 14. Because this name bears such a striking resemblance to that found in Babylonian inscriptions Nergal-Sharezer, some scholars think this prince was Nergal Greek form, believed to be the Otextoi acute Muritra longo, nest 494 nest. The place a bird or animal prepares for raising its young. Also, a lodging, a retreat, or a snug, comfortable, cozy residence. PR 27. 8. Issa 10. 14. 16. 2. The nests of birds vary greatly in location, size, and construction, but each type suits better than any other the particular use for which it is designed. Locations of different varieties range from the earth or the sound. Snakes are also said to have nests on the ground or among rocks. Issa 34. 15 to tufts of grass, bushes, rocks, trees, hollow tree trunks, seashore cliffs, mountains, crevices in man's buildings, even suspended over water between reeds. Among building materials used are twigs, leaves, seaweed, wool, cotton, hide, straw, moss, fur, feathers, the down of plants, horsehair, pieces of cloth, and so forth. In general, nests serve as protection from predators, as shelter from storms, and as insulation from heat and cold. To impress on Job the wisdom of the Creator, Jehovah called attention to the eagle, that builds its nest high up, that on a crag resides and stays during the night upon the tooth of a crag and an inaccessible place. Job 39. 27, 28. And to illustrate God's loving care for Israel, Moses referred to the eagle that stirs up its nest, evidently with reference to the manner in which an eagle urges and sometimes shoves the fledgling into the air to teach it to fly. Jehovah similarly brought Israel out of Egypt as a nation. He administered tender care to the young nation throughout the wilderness journey and while they were settling in the promised land, just as the eagle watches and cares for the young during their flying lessons. 32. 11. Sea eagle. The rock dove also builds its nest high in rocky places. The towering rocks in the vicinity of the Dead Sea provide numerous clefts and caves for its nests. Jeremiah may have had these secluded nests in mind in pronouncing judgment on Moab, who dwelt in this area. Leave the cities and reside on the crag, you inhabitants of Moab, and become like the dove that makes its nest in the regions of the mouth of the hollow. J 48. 28. Compare Balaam's utterance at New 24. 21. The thick foliage of the strong cedars of Lebanon served as an excellent nesting location for other birds. There was ample year-round shelter and concealment. The psalmist cited this as an example of God's marvelous provisions for the welfare of his creatures. PS 104. 16, 17. Under the law, the Israelites were forbidden to take the eggs or the young from a nest and at the same time kill their mother. This prevented the cruelty of completely wiping out the family at one stroke. The mother was to be spared, to produce more young. De 22. 6, 7. When a certain one of the scribes said to Jesus, "Teacher, I will follow you wherever you are about to go," Jesus replied, Foxes have dens and birds of heaven have roosts or nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay down his head. Mount 8. 19, 20. Luke 9. 57, 58. Here Jesus pointed out that to be his follower the man would have to forsake the idea of having the comforts and conveniences commonly enjoyed, and must put his trust completely in Jehovah. This principle is reflected in the model prayer he taught his disciples. Give us today our bread for this day, and his statement. Thus, you may be sure, none of you that does not say goodbye to all his belongings can be my disciple. Mount 6. 11. Luke 14. 33. Figurative usage. In judgment messages against Edom, God used the eagle's high nesting place as a symbol of Edom's literally high location in the mountains, as well as of its haughtiness and presumptuousness. Jah 49. 15-18. Ob 1-4. Compare God's declaration against Babylon, at Hab 1. 6. 2. 6-11. In prophesying against Jerusalem, Jeremiah referred to the loftiness of Lebanon's trees and the value of its cedar wood, used particularly by kings and rich men in construction of their houses. The palace of Judah's king Otextoi acute Miritra Longo, Nethinum 495 net, or network, served as a grading for the altar of sacrifice. X27. 4, 5. 38. 4. 1 Chi 7. 16-18, 41, 42. Jah 52. 22, 23. Figurative use. Net is often used figuratively in the Bible to represent means for ensnaring others, encircling them and taking them captive or bringing calamity upon them. Job 18. 8. 19. 6. PS 66. 11. Blah 1. 13. Es 12. 13. 17. 20. 19. 8. 32. 3. Ho 5. 1. 7. 12. Mix 7. 2. The means used by the Chaldeans to conquer nations as they extended their dominion over a wide area is likened to a dragnet. Had 1. 6. 15-17. Also, flattery and the scheming heart of an immoral woman are compared to nets. PR 29. 5. EC 7. 26. The psalmist expressed the confidence that Jehovah would deliver him from entangling nets. PS 25. 15. 31. 4. 140. 5. 12. And that those spreading out such nets would themselves be ensnared thereby. PS 9. 15. 35. 7, 8. 57. 6. 141. 10. Concerning the construction and use of various nets, see Bodkaja. Dragnet. Hunting and fishing. Netamani Middle.Harim. A Judean site inhabited by some potters who were in the king's service. 1ch4. 21-23. Today the location of Netam is unknown. Nethanel any middle. The Nil God has given. 1. Chieftain of the tribe of Issachar, son of Zur. New 1. 8, 16. In this office, he supervised the wilderness census for Issachar, presented his gift when the tabernacle altar was inaugurated, and led an army of 54,400. New 2. 5, 6. 7. 11, 18-23. 10. 15. 2. Fourth named son of Jesse and older brother of King David. 1ch2. 13-15. 3. Elvitu's son Shammai was a secretary during David's reign. 1ch24. 6. 4. A priest who played a trumpet before the Ark of the Covenant in the procession that accompanied it to Jerusalem. 1ch15. 24. 5. A Levite gatekeeper assigned in David's time to the S of the sanctuary, where the storehouses were located. Fifth son of Obed-Edom. 1 ch 26. 4, 8, 15. 6. A prince sent by King Jehoshaphat to teach Jehovah's law in the cities of Judah. 2 ch 17. 7-9. 7. A chief Levite who contributed animals for sacrifice at Josiah's great Passover celebration. 2 ch 35. 9, 18, 19. 8. Head of the priestly paternal house of Judea in the days of Jeshua's successor Joachim. Ne 12. 12, 21. 9. A priest among those sons of Pasha who had taken foreign wives, but who sent them away at Ezra's urging. Es 10. 22, 44 possibly the same as no. 10. 10. A musician in one of the processions that celebrated the rebuilding of the wall of Jerusalem in Nehemiah's day. Ne 12. 31, 35, 36 possibly identical with no. 9. Neth middle dot a middle dot nar Jehovah has given. 1. Third named of Asaph's 4 sons chosen by David for musical service at the sanctuary. Of the 24 divisions, Nethaniah head of the 5th. 1 ch 25. 1, 2, 12. 2. A Levite of the corps composed of priests, Levites, and princes who were sent out by King Jehoshaphat in the 3rd year of his reign to teach Jehovah's law in the cities of Judah. 2 ch 17. 7-9. 3. Son of Shelemiah and father of Hudi, who read Jeremiah's roll to King Joachim in 625 BCE 36. 14, 21, 23. 4. The son of Elishama and father of Ishmael the murderer of Governor Gedaliah. 2 Chi 25. 23, 25. 40. 8, 14, 15. 41. 1-18. Nethinim Nethi middle dot name given ones. Non-Israelite temple servants or ministers. 1 ch 9. 2. Ezrite. 17 representatives of 35 Nethinim families were among those returning from Babylonian exile with Zerubbabel in 537 BCE as 2. 1, 2, 43-54, 58. Ne 7. 46-56, 60. The sons of Akub, Hagab, and Asna, listed by Ezra, are not mentioned by Nehemiah. They may have been combined under other family names. Also, in 468 BCE some of the Nethinim accompanied Ezra from Babylon to Jerusalem. Es 7. 1-7 Thereafter certain Nethinim shared in repairing Jerusalem's wall. Ne 3. 26 They also joined with the Israelites in a covenant to keep themselves free from marriage alliances with foreigners. Ne 10. 28-30. Likely many of the Nethinim were descendants of the Gibeonites o textually acute Miritra longo. Netafar 496 In post-exilic times, the Nethinim resided in Ophel, apparently near the temple area, as well as in other cities. Es 2. 70. Ne 3. 26, 31. 7. 73. 11. 3, 21 On account of their temple work, Persian King Artaxerxes exempted them from paying tax, tribute, and toll. Es 7. 24. Netafar in middle dot tafar from a root meaning drip. Drop, Netafatites ne middle dot Tophatites. A small village of Judah probably located at Bethlehem, about 4 kilometers 2.5 mi of Bethlehem, and its inhabitants. The Bible concerns itself primarily with the inhabitants, who, at first, were apparently related to those who settled in Bethlehem. 1 ch 2. 54. Among the Netophathites were David's mighty men Maharai and Heldai, both of whom became heads of army divisions. 2 23. 8, 28, 29. 1 ch 11. 26, 30. 27. 13, 15 Some Netophathites were left in Judah after the general deportation to Babylon, and they supported Governor Gedaliah. 2 Chi 25. 23. Jah 40. A number of Netophatite descendants of those carried off to Babylon returned with Zerubbabel in 537 BCE as 2. 1, 2, 22. Ne 7. 26 Some Levites who lived among the settlements of the Netophathites came to Jerusalem for the inauguration of the rebuilt wall. 1 Ch 9. 14, 16. Ne 12. 27, 28. Nettle. Any of a variety of plants with sawed leaves that are usually thickly covered with stinging hairs containing an irritating liquid. When touched, the tips of the hairs break off, and the sharp broken ends penetrate the skin, causing the liquid to enter the wound. At least 4 varieties of nettles are known to exist in Palestine, the most common being the Roman nettle Odica pilulifera, which can attain a height of 1.8 meters, 6 feet, and is especially found amid ruins. The Hebrew terms char middle dot rule pr 24. 31. Zep 2. 9 and Chaim middle dot Moses 34. 13. Ho 9. 6 are applied to plants that take over neglected fields and ruins. At Job 30. 7, the reference to char middle dot rule suggests tall plants. Another Hebrew word so middle dot pad briar, kj. Nettle, o. Stinging nettle, NW is contrasted with myrtle. Isra 55. 13. At Proverbs 24. 31 a form of the word chemos thistles, at. Thorns, kj. Weeds, NW is viewed by some as being in parallel with char middle dot rule. Therefore some scholars think Chaim middle dot most denotes weeds generally. Others believe that char middle dot rule may be a generic term applying to brush. A translating of char middle dot rule as nettles in Job 30. 7 has also been questioned by some on the basis that people would not voluntarily seek shelter under nettles. In a waterless region, though, people might well avail themselves of the shade of tall nettles or, because of hunger, be found gathering these plants for food. So the rendering is appropriate. New Covenant. See Covenant. New Jerusalem. An expression that occurs 2 times, and only in the highly symbolic book of Revelation. 3. 12. 21. 2 Near the end of that series of visions, and after seeing Babylon the Great destroyed, the Apostle John says, I saw also the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God and prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. 21. 2. The bride of the Lamb. In the light of other scriptures, the identity of New Jerusalem is made certain. She is as a bride. Farther along, John writes, one of the 7 angels spoke with me and said, Come here, I will show you the bride, the Lamb's wife. So he carried me away in the power of the Spirit to a great and lofty mountain, and he showed me the holy city Jerusalem coming down out of heaven from God and having the glory of God. Its radiance was like a most precious stone, as a jasper stone shining crystal clear. 21. 9-11. New Jerusalem is the bride of whom? The Lamb of God, Jesus Christ, who shed his blood sacrificially for mankind. Job 1. 29. 5. 6, 12. 7. 14. 12. 11. 21. 14 What is her identity? She is composed of the members of the glorified Christian congregation. The congregation on earth was likened o text to a acute miritra longo, Nicodemus 497 of literal streets and buildings constructed in the Middle East on the site of the ancient city of Jerusalem, which was destroyed in 70 CE. The members of the bride class when on earth are told that their citizenship exists in the heavens, and that their hope is to receive an incorruptible and undefiled and unfading inheritance. It is reserved in the heavens for you, says the Apostle Peter. PHP 3. 20. 1p1. 4. In 537 BCE Jehovah created new heavens and a new earth when the Jewish remnant was restored to Jerusalem from Babylonian exile. Issa 65. 17 Evidently the governorship of Zerubbabel, a descendant of David aided by high priest Joshua, at the city of Jerusalem, constituted the new heavens then. Hagg 1. 1:14. See heaven, new heavens and new earth. The New Jerusalem, together with Christ on his throne in this symbolic city, constitutes the new heavens that rule over the new earth, which is human society on earth. That the New Jerusalem is indeed a heavenly city is further supported by the vision of her that John beheld. Only a symbolic city could have the dimensions and splendor of New Jerusalem. Its base was foursquare, about 555 kilometers 345 mi on each side, or about 2,220 kilometers 1,379 mi completely around, that is, 12,000 furlongs. Being a cube, the city was also as high as it was long and wide. No man-made city could ever reach that far into outer space. Round about was a wall 144 cubits 64 meters, 210 feet high. The wall, itself constructed of jasper, in turn rested on 12 foundation stones, precious stones of great beauty. Jasper, sapphire, chalcedony, emerald, sardonyx, sardius, chrysolite, beryl, topaz, chrysoprase, hyacinth, and amethyst. On these 12 foundation stones were engraved the names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. The city proper within these beautiful walls was no less glorious, for it was described as pure gold like clear glass, having a broad way of pure gold, as transparent glass. 321. 12-21. A pure, beneficial rule. Entrance into the New Jerusalem through its magnificent walls was by means of 12 gates, 3 on a side, each made of a huge pearl. Although these gates were never closed, anything not sacred and anyone that carries on a disgusting thing and a lie will in no way enter into it. Only those written in the Lamb's scroll of life will. A holy and sacred city indeed, yet there was no visible temple of worship, for Jehovah God the Almighty is its temple, also the Lamb is. And there was no need of the sun nor of the moon to shine upon it, for the glory of God lighted it up, and its lamp was the Lamb. Its rulership over the nations will be beneficial to them, for the nations will walk by means of its light. 321. 22-27. Nutheb. Letter middle dot R. A small salamander or tailed amphibian, resembling a lizard but scaleless and covered with a soft, moist, thin skin. It is related to the frog and is listed among the unclean creatures of the Mosaic Law. Law 11. 29, 30. The banded newt Trichuris vittatus of Asia Minor and Syria is distinguished by black band along each side of its body. Bred in the water, it lives on land for 2 or 3 years after losing its gills, then returns to the water to live out the remainder of its life. Netzia middle dot zia from a root meaning oversee. Excel. Endure. Forefather of a group of Nethinim who returned with Zerubbabel after the Babylonian exile, 537 BCE as 2. 1, 2, 43, 54. Ne 7. 46, 56. Nezib Nezib from a root meaning set up. Station. Erect. A Judean site in the Shephelah. Jos 15. 20, 33, 43. It is usually identified with Beit Nezib or Vet Neziv, about 11 kilometers 7 mi NW of Hebron. Nebaznib, as a deity worshipped by the Avites, whom the king of Assyria settled in the territory of Samaria following the deportation of the Israelites after the fall of the 10-tribe kingdom. 2 Kai 17. 24-31. Aside from the brief scriptural reference to Nabaz, O textoi acute miritra longo, order to see the kingdom of God, of no man's having ascended to heaven, about God's love as being shown by sending the Son to earth, and about the need to exercise faith. Joe 2. 23. 3. 1-21. About 2.5 years later, at the festival of booths, the Pharisees sent officers to lay hold of Jesus. When the officers returned empty-handed, the Pharisees belittled them for making a report favorable to Jesus, whereupon Nicodemus spoke up, saying, "Our Lord does not judge a man unless first it has heard from him and come to know what he is doing, does it?" For this the others ridiculed him. Joe 7. 45-52. After Jesus' death, Nicodemus came along with Joseph of Arimathea, that fearful disciple, bringing a heavy roll of myrrh and aloes c. 100 Roman pounds 33 kilograms. 72 pounds, a costly offering, with which to prepare Jesus' body for burial. Joe 19. 38-40 There is no scriptural evidence for or against the traditions that St. Nicodemus later became a disciple, was cast out of the Sanhedrin in Jerusalem, died a martyr's death, and so forth. Nicolaus Nick Laus conqueror of the people. 1. One of the 7 qualified men whom the congregation recommended to the apostles for appointment as food distributors to ensure just and fair treatment among the early Jerusalem congregation following Pentecost, 33 CE. Of the 7, Nicolaus is the only one called a proselyte of Antioch, which suggests that he may have been the only non-Jew of the group, the Greek names of the others being common even among natural Jews. Acts 6. 1-6. 2. The sect of Nicolaus or Nicolaitans is condemned in 2 of the 7 letters to the congregations in chapters 2 and 3 of Revelation. For hating the deeds of the sect of Nicolaus, which Christ Jesus himself also hates, the angel of the Ephesus congregation was commended. Re 2. 1-6 In the congregation at Pergamum, however, there were some holding fast the teaching of the sect of Nicolaus, from which they were urged to turn away and repent. Re 2. 12, 15, 16. Aside from what is here written in Revelation about the sect of Nicolaus, nothing else is known of it, either of its practices and teachings, which are condemned, or of its origin and development. The connective so immediately following the reference to the immoral and idolatrous course the Israelites pursued due to the teaching of Balaam. Re 2. 14, 15 might indicate some similarity, but Revelation makes a distinction between the 2. There is no reason to connect the sect with Nicolaus the Antiochian Christian number 1 just because he is the only person of that name in the Bible, as has also been done by some of the early church writers. Nor is it warranted to say that some apostatized sect took his name to give way to their wrongdoing. Nicolaus was more probably a biblically unidentified individual after whom the ungodly movement was named. Nicopolis List City of Conquest. A city where the Apostle Paul decided to spend the winter during one of his trips and to which he urged Titus to come. Tilt 3. 12 The note at the end of Paul's letter to Titus in the King James Version, indicating it to have been written from Nicopolis of Macedonia, is not found in the oldest manuscripts. Evidently Paul did not write his letter from Nicopolis, since Titus 3. 12 implies that he was not yet there, but had merely decided to winter there. Of the various ancient cities named Nicopolis, the Nicopolis of Epirus located on a peninsula in NW Greece and about 10 kilometers 6 mi of Preveza, seems to fit the biblical reference best. Being a prominent city, it would have been a good place for Paul to declare the good news, and it was conveniently situated for both Paul apparently then in Macedonia and Titus in Crete. It may be that Paul was arrested in Nicopolis and then taken to Rome for his final imprisonment and execution. Octavian Augustus founded Nicopolis to memorialize his naval victory. Textoi acute miritra longo. Nija 499 was expressed by the same Hebrew word. Thus, the writer at Psalm 119. 147 says, I have been up early in the morning twilight. Hebrew division. The Hebrews divided the night into watches. When I have remembered you upon my lounge, during the night watches I meditate on you. PS 63. 6 Since Judges 7. 19 speaks of a middle night watch, it seems evident there were 3 of them in early times. It appears that each watch covered 1/3 of the time between sundown and sunrise, or about 4 hours each, depending on the time of the year. The first watch would thus run from about 6 midnight to 10 midnight. The middle night watch would begin about 10 midnight and run until about 2 midnight. This was a strategic time for Gideon to make his surprise attack on the Midianite camp. The third watch was called the morning watch, lasting from about 2 midnight till sunrise. It was during this morning watch that Jehovah caused the pursuing Egyptian armies to begin to experience grave difficulties in their attempted passage through the Red Sea. Acts 14. 24-28. See also 1 Sir 11. 11. Roman division. At least by the time of the Roman control, the Jews adopted the Greek and Roman practice of 4 nocturnal watches. Jesus evidently referred to these 4 divisions when he said, Therefore keep on the watch, for you do not know when the master of the house is coming, whether late in the day or at midnight or at cock-crowing or early in the morning. Mr. 13. 35 The watch late in the day ran from sunset until about 9. Midnight The second watch, called the midnight, began about 9. Midnight and ended at midnight. Lu 12. 38 The cock-crowing covered from midnight till about 3. Midnight It was probably during this time that the cock-crowings mentioned at Mark 14. 30 occurred. See cock-crowing. Finally, from 3. Midnight until sunrise was the fourth watch, early in the morning. Mount 14. 25. Mr. 6. 48. On one occasion mention is made of a specific hour of the 12 hours that make up the night time. Acts 23. 23 tells us that it was at the third hour, or about 9. Midnight that the military commander ordered the troops to take Paul from Jerusalem on his way to Caesarea. Whereas the Jews began the new day at sunset, according to Roman custom midnight was the fixed point for ending and beginning the day. This avoided the problem resulting from the lengthening and shortening of the daylight hours due to the seasons as occurred when starting the day at sunset and allowed for their dividing the day into two equal 12-hour periods at all times of the year. This is the practice in most nations today. Figurative use. The word night is at times used in a figurative, or symbolic, sense in the Bible. At John 9. For Jesus spoke of the night coming when no man can work. Jesus here referred to the time of his judgment, impalement, and death, when he would be unable to engage in the works of his Father. CEC 9. 10. Job 10. 21, 22. At Romans 13. 11, 12, the night manifestly refers to a period of darkness caused by God's adversary, which is due to be ended by Christ Jesus and his reign. Cf 6. 12, 13. Col 1. 13, 14. At 1 Thessalonians 5. 1-11 God's servants who have been enlightened by his truth are contrasted with worldly people who have not. Their way of life manifests that they are sons of light and sons of day. They belong neither to night nor to darkness. See Job 8. 12. 12. 36, 46. 1 Pe 2. 9. 2 Co 6. 14. A similar usage is found at Micah 3. 6, where the prophet says to those rejecting true divine guidance, "Therefore you men will have night, so that there will be no vision. And darkness you will have, so as not to practice divination. And the sun will certainly set upon the prophets, and the day must get dark upon them." Compare Job 3. 19-21. The night is also used to represent, generally, a time of adversity, since the night with its gloom and obscurity is the time when wild beasts so textoi acute miritra longo, Nile 500 lila, meaning night, suggests the wrapping itself round or enfolding the earth. Such derivation of Lee-middle.lith, he suggests, may likely point to the nightjar as both a nocturnal feeding bird and one noted for its rapid twisting and turning flight as it pursues moths, beetles, and other night-flying insects. As quoted by Driver, Trostram, the naturalist, described the nightjar as becoming very active towards dusk, when they hawk about at great speed and with intricate turnings after their food. Palestine Exploration Quarterly, London, 1959, pages 55, 56. The nightjar is almost 30 cm 12 inches in length with a wingspan of 50 cm 20 inches or more. Its plumage resembles the owl's, being soft and delicately mottled with grey and brown. The soft wing feathers allow for noiseless flight. Its large mouth is evidently the reason for its also being called a goat sucker, an ancient legend holding that the bird sucked the milk of goats. As to the likelihood of such a bird being found in the arid region of Edom, certain varieties of this bird are known to inhabit waste places. An Egyptian nightjar Caprimulgus aegyptius lives almost exclusively in the desert, occupying acacia groves and tamarisk bushes and seeking its food in twilight. Another Caprimulgus nubicus is found in desert fringes between Jericho and the Red Sea, hence in regions like that of Edom. Nile. The Greek name given to the river, the northern part of whose valley formed the land of ancient Egypt, making that land essentially a river oasis. Map, Volume 1, p. 531. In the Hebrew Scriptures, the river is regularly referred to by